Black Scully on check. Got a little black tea on check. Welcome to another marvelous episode. On today's docket, Athlon Sports released their ACC Spring Camp Power Rankings, and we're going to look at that, and we're going to find out what I agree with and what I disagree with. I think overall they did a pretty decent job. There's just some spots here and there that I overwhelmingly disagree with. Also on today's docket, Shedeur Sanders since the NFL Combine. Granted, he really didn't participate other than the questioning portion. He's received a lot of criticism, and we're going to talk about, is this criticism warranted or are they hating? We're going to definitely dissect that. And lastly, we're going to talk about QB1 of the 2026 NFL Draft Class. Only on Governor College Football, hashtag go CFB. CFB Nation, your only college football destination. Let's get it. Governor of College Football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's
Two great
CJ
defensive
on
minds.
the
They have to be better on that side of I probably have roughly 4 or 5 college football websites, probably closer to 6 college football websites that I check daily, and I probably check them roughly about 3 or 4 times a day. And Athlon Sports is just a college football website that I've always loved. I've always gone to them. I love their magazine as well during the preseason. Of course, if you know me, Phil Steele magazine is my favorite. I just think it's the most in-depth magazine. But let's get into this Athlon Sports Power Rankings. At number 1, we got Clemson. Number 2, the U. Number 3, SMU. Number 4, Louisville. Number 5, Georgia Tech. Number 6, Duke. Number 7, Pitt. Number 8, Florida State. Number 9, North Carolina. Number 10, Virginia Tech. 11, Syracuse. 12, Boston College. 13, NC State. 14, Cal. 15, UVA. 16, Wake Forest. 17, Stanford. Let's look into some greater details. We look at this. Clemson finished 10-4 last season. Miami finished 10-3 last year. SMU finished 11-3 last season. Louisville was 9-4 last season. Not too shabby. Georgia Tech was 7-6 last season. Duke finished 9-4 last season. Pitt was 7-6 last season. Florida State had an abysmal year after an ACC championship back in 2023. They were 2-10 last year. UNC 6-7. Out Mac Brown and Bill Belichick. It'll be interesting to see what's going on with North Carolina this year. Virginia Tech 6-7. Anybody who's been paying attention for a while, Virginia Tech was my dark horse to win the ACC last year. I was really disappointed with their output, with the amount of talent that they had on their roster, and like a Cameron Jones, and like a Tutin, and like a Allie Jennings, and like a Jalen Lane, and like a Daquan Felton. I just thought they had an immense amount of talent, but I just thought that offensive coordinator, Tyler Bowen, and for whatever reason, they just couldn't get it done last year, and Tyler Bowen is now in Columbus, offensive line coach at Ohio State. And number 11, Syracuse. I was big on Syracuse last year. My best prediction of last year was Kyle McCord would finish top 5 in passing in the FBS, and he actually finished number 1 in passing in the FBS. Number 13, NC State. Number 14, Cal. 15, UVA. UVA was 5-7 on the year last year. Cal was 6-7 on the year last year. NC State was very disappointing at 6-7 last year. Boston College was at 7-6. Syracuse 10-3. Wake Forest was 4-8. Stanford was 3-9. So I love Bill Connolly's metrics. I love the return on production metric. I love the SP Plus metric. They had Clemson SP Plus ranking of 11, Miami SP Plus ranking of 14, SMU SP Plus ranking of 18, Louisville SP Plus ranking of 22, Georgia Tech SP Plus ranking of 46. Now, Clemson being number 1, I agree. Clemson should be the favorite. We look at Dabo Swinney, and a lot of us have been extremely critical of Dabo Swinney over the last few years just because of his inability to use the transfer portal. But if you're around the program enough, you know that he really likes getting these kids out of high school, grooming them to be, not only athletes, but student athletes. I think Clemson has the highest graduation rate for college football players, and that's because they really do grow up in the program. Former players do come back and give back to the program as well. So I think Dabo Swinney is proving that, that Frank Sinatra, hey, I can win and I can win my way and in this climate and not use the transfer portal. And I think that's why when you look at Clemson, number 1 return production, that's going to also bode really well for the Tigers this upcoming season. And it'll be interesting to see. I think Cade Klubnik, I'm going to talk about QB1 of class 2026. a little bit later in this episode, but I think Klubnik, I think him and Garrett Riley are going to have an opportunity to do something really special, and you see them start to heat up around the middle of the season, towards the end of the season in 2024. So I think that's, this is year 3 of the install of the offense. It's difficult, as a freshman when you do get playing time, have a coordinator change, and then boom, enter Garrett Riley. Year 1 was a little shaky. Year 2, it started off a little shaky, but, increasingly got better. And I think year 3, I think Cade Klubnik probably has his sights set on the Heisman. Louisville is my dark horse to win the conference. Jeff Brom, he's 19-8. Since he joined Louisville, he's back at home. And I think his tenure there, if you look at, what he's been able to do, hasn't recruited extremely well at the quarterback position, but what he's been able to do is find guys in the portal. And we've seen every quarterback so far that he's gotten out of portal, they've had their best season in Louisville. We've seen in 2023, we've seen Jack Plummer was able to grab him out of the portal. He had a great year at Louisville. Last season, it was Tyler Shuck. We've seen really up and down with Tyler Shuck at both stops in Oregon and Texas A&M. Last season, he really delivered for Louisville. And this year, they got a guy, Miller Ball, so I think is really going to light it up. And with Chris Bell coming back, and we seen Chris Bell really turning on, wide receiver Chris Bell last season, Louisville is going to be a damn good team. So Louisville is a lot higher on my slate than it would be on somebody else's slate. I just really like the team. I think I said it earlier, SP Plus ranking of 22nd. I really like that. And that's SP Plus. All it is your recent history. It's your returning production, and it's your recruiting, and that's pretty much how Bill Connolly calculates this metric, and that's why I like the metric so much. So Louisville, I'm extremely high on Louisville this season. SMU is kind of the team I don't know really what to expect from. Last season, coming into last season, we all know it was about the Kevin Jennings and Preston Stone quarterback competition. They even brought it to ACC Media Days where both quarterbacks was there. And, they were really unsure of who was going to start. And they kind of split possessions at quarterback earlier in the season. And then ultimately, Kevin Jennings was able to win it. Can SMU duplicate some of that success this season? They do have a tougher schedule, so that will be interesting to see. Another spot that I'm looking at on this list, I'm looking at Pitt. I'm looking at what can they do this year. Their return production is 27th, SP Plus ranking them 53rd. Not bad at all. Stanford, I don't know what to make of Stanford, because Stanford was 3-9 last year, and the old adage goes, you are what your record says you are. But I think there were some games that they had opportunities that they didn't win, but they also won a couple games that could have went the other way as well. So I'm interested to see what Stanford does. They had a high return of production last year, another high return production this year. I'm interested to see what they can do. Do I think they'll be the worst team in the conference? I don't believe so. I think NC State had a down year last year. They still were able to get to bowl eligibility and play in a bowl game. They lost in a bowl game ultimately. But I'm interested to see what's going on in Raleigh. I think that it might be a little fire under Coach Dorian's seat this upcoming season. Boston College, I think, is going to be another team to kind of really gauge. In my opinion, they're a little lower on this list at 12th seed in the conference, but it's difficult in a conference like the ACC where you do have a couple of semi-elite teams, and you kind of have everybody else. North Carolina, I really don't know what to expect out of North Carolina this year. It'll be interesting to see where they end up. But like I said, Clemson deserves to be one. Miami, Carson Beck is down there. We see 4 consecutive years. They went and got a big fish in the portal. Last year was Cam Ward. This year was Carson Beck. So I'm interested to see what Cristobal do. Cristobal has put together really great back-to-back recruiting cycles. So the talent is there. There were some games Miami, kind of like the Syracuse game last year. If they win that game, they're in the ACC championship and ultimately probably in the college football playoffs. They end up losing that game. They had a couple of games that, were controversial. The Virginia Tech game was controversial last year. I ain't going to speak on it, but it was extremely controversial. Cal, they were down a lot, and they came back that game. So I think ACC is going to be fun this year. I'm super excited for ACC Media Days. I truly can't wait. Like I said, overall, this list isn't bad. I can understand why Stanford is in the cellar, why Wake Forest is in the cellar. I think UVA is budding. They're up and coming. Cal, it'll be, they had some tough losses last year. Overall, like I said, not a bad list. I probably would have Louisville higher than SMU. And I know Miami has a really great constructed roster, but I would probably have Louisville higher than them. So I will have Clemson at 1, Louisville at 2, Miami at 3. And then maybe Georgia Tech. It'll be hard to see what they'll be at this year. Georgia Tech, really physical team. We already know what Coach Brent Key is going to bring to the table. They're going to be physical. They're going to have the ability to run the ball. So I'm interested to see, what they'll be able to continue down there. Let's move on to the next segment. Must be the money. Is Shedeur Sanders hate warranted? Is it proper critique or is it hate? If his father wasn't Deion Sanders, would he get the hate that he got? I think we got to go back. We got to travel back. In high school, the knock on him was the type of talent they were playing in high school. Then his first year at Jackson State, they were successful there, but it's at an HBCU. First year at Colorado, they showed sparks. We got the TCU game. We got the Nebraska game that year, but then it was a lot of losing, and it was like, yeah, he put up good stats, but he can't win. I think this year, this past season, he showed the ability to win. I think the knock on Shedeur Sanders is something that should be respected as a quarterback. He's extremely confident. He believes he's the franchise guy. He believes he can go out there and make the plays necessary to win a game. We've seen him in clutch moments be terrific. We've seen him at times in the pocket be extremely poised. At times, people probably think he's a little too poised and hold on to the ball too long. But it just makes me think, if his last name wasn't Sanders, would you guys look at him the same way? And I don't know why the media is so critical of this kid. This kid is like, you can't shake him. From the amount of crap that people talked about Colorado in 2023, and people wanted it to be another bad season this year, and that just wasn't the case. Did they get embarrassed in the bowl? Absolutely. Did they have an opportunity to make the Big 12 playoffs and blew it? Absolutely. Those things are true. The Kansas game, they got physically beat, but I think that was more of an indication on the team and the lack of physicality on that team. Though it was better in 24 than it was in 23, it's not so much an indication on Shedeur Sanders. I love the banter that I've seen between Sanders and Cam Ward, how competitive both of these guys are. And any NFL team that needs a quarterback that passes on this kid because he's too confident, you're goofy. You're stupid. And it really goes back to this NFL and this good old boys network. Like, I feel like the NFL has always been a good boy network. They want you to do things a certain way. They want you to be buttoned up a certain way. This is a new age. This is a new time. And we have a lot of older people running these organizations. And I think that may be part of what's coming from this. But a lot of this just doesn't make sense. If you just really analyze the situation, you really look at this situation, you be like, okay, the talent is there. He's put up amazing stats. His team was nothing before the Sanders family got there. Nothing before Travis Hunter got there. Nothing before Prime got there. Nothing before, Shiloh and Shedeur got there. And then you look at where they're at now and how they're still able to recruit, and they're set up for success even after all of these players departed. I just don't get why you guys are so hard on him. Like, make it make sense. Like, I can see if there were a bunch of flaws in his game. There are not. I can see if he's out here doing dumb stuff, or we hear about him getting in trouble. We don't hear these things. You guys are just upset that this guy is confident. Well, to play quarterback in the NFL, you have to be confident. Newsflash. Why y'all bothering this kid? This kid's 22 years old, 23 years old. I don't know how old he is, but we sit here and I hate the NFL draft process. I'm going to be honest. I hate the NFL draft process. I do respect everybody who works in this space, works in that medium, who are analyzing these kids. I love college football because I can be critical of programs, but I don't got to be critical of these players. Now, these players do something stupid, I will hold them accountable and say what I got to say, but it's never personal attacks. The NFL process, we're just attacking everything. Well, this kid's too slow. This kid's too fat. This kid's got to lose weight. This kid got to do that. And the half of the people that's critiquing these people can't do what these people can do. It is so frustrating. Is this criticism or is this hate? This is 100% hate. I'm sorry to say it. I'm going to look y'all in your eyes and say it. This is hate. It does not make sense. If you do not think this is the quarterback for your team or your organization, I get it. You prefer a Cam Ward. You prefer a Jackson Dart. I get it. But don't criticize the man for being confident. That's what he's supposed to be. To play quarterback in the NFL, you have to be confident. It is what it is. You have to be poised. He is these things. You have to be clutch. We see Jaden Daniels took the lead by storm this year. Is he a fun-loving guy? Absolutely. Does he look like he enjoyed to play the game? Absolutely. But deep inside, it's a confident guy there. So please stop being so critical of Shedeur Sanders, and I'm wishing him nothing but the best in year one of NFL. But I just hate the NFL draft process because this is what we do, man. We forget what it was like to be 22 or 23 years old sometimes. Like, yeah, you know, that's young adulthood. You're figuring yourself out. But this man will be successful at the next level. I guarantee it. Let's go ahead and move along into the next segment. All righty. Who is QB1 of the 2026 NFL draft class? So my super early prediction of who will win the Heisman next year is none other than Garrett Nussmeier at LSU. I think this kid can make all the throws. And granted, not my guy, Andy and Nino of CFB Nation, both, that's their guy. They were first telling me about him. They believed he could make all the throws. I watched the USC game, and though in the loss, I was like, oh, yeah, no, that kid can make every throw. He's electrifying. I think last year was interesting, new offense coordinator, because Mike Denbrock went to Notre Dame and, you know, helped lead them to a national championship appearance. So Garrett Nussmeier is my pick for the Heisman. It does not mean he will be my pick for quarterback one. I think Cade Klubnik is going to light it up this year. I think his dual threat ability is really going to impress the scouts. I think him and Garrett Riley, like I said earlier, they're really going to click this year, and I think he's going to put up some decent numbers this year. Drew Allar is another guy that I'm looking at. It's a guy that can put up some numbers this year. You know, with his running back room coming back, best running back room in the nation. What is him and Andrew Cottle-Nicky? How does that relationship grow this year? I think we'll see something similar to what we've seen with Garrett Riley and Cade Klubnik. Another guy, the guy that's on the screen right now, Arch Manning. I think it's going to be hard to say Arch Manning isn't quarterback one of next year's draft class. You look at the pedigree, you look at the flashes that you saw, you look at that he's with arguably the best play caller in the sport, and Steve Sarkisian. They've year after year been able to produce, you know, with weapons on the outside. They've been able to run the rock. They got a defense. I think this team right now was probably my way too early pick to win the national championship, you know, next season. But you look at uncles of Eli and Peyton. Peyton in the Hall of Fame. Eli will be in the Hall of Fame. I can guarantee you that. Grandfather's in the Hall of Fame. The pedigree is there. This kid wants it. This kid has earned a lot of people's respect, and I think he's going to be dynamic, and I think he will be the first pick of the NFL draft next year. Fun fact, I believe next year's draft class is better than this draft class. I think there'll be a little bit more depth. I think these players offer a little bit more at the position than the players we currently have in this NFL draft, but I can't wait. Arch Manning is my pick for quarterback one of 2026 NFL draft. As I always like to say, there are no more victories in the sport that survive and advance. That's why college football has the greatest regular season. And until next time, you already know what it is. One time for the one time. Peace. I'll see y'all. Governor of college football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's CJ
Great defensive minds. They have to be better on that side of it.